I've got a few pieces that I bring with me to every wedding, and it is our hers and his little vow books. I love adding some texture into flat lays because it's very, very necessary to add some visual interest. So these are just kind of fun. So let's go ahead and add them in, see if we like them, make sure it's not too top heavy, and then we'll add in our accessories. I'm going to put one of them on the bottom. And then I'm gonna add just one acrylic styling block to give it some dimension up top. Okay, since these are going to be some fun little statement pieces, let's go ahead and just give it a little bit of some visual interest. Okay, I'll teach you about ribbons here in a minute. Okay. So we've got our one up here. I'm not sure I love this because we do want to do a symmetrical one today. This one is already our statement piece of going, you know, both ways. And this just kind of makes the eye go in two separate directions. So I am only going to add one of these in today. Here in line with this one. Again, just our big statement pieces need to be completely spaced, but let's see how that looks really, really pretty. Okay, so after we have our paper invites set, let's go ahead and add our accessories. So I have the clay dishes, and since we're going with like the more moody, I'm not going to use my white ones, I'm gonna use my gold ones. So the trick with using circles is in a flat lay, the eye will naturally gravitate towards a perfect shape, which is a circle. So instead of the circle being the main focus, I'm going to want to cut the circle off. So again, it comes in a pack of 2. You're gonna wanna use your biggest one towards the bottom of your flat lay, so it's not top heavy. We want bottom heavy flat lays, and then we thin it as we go up. So my smallest one, I'm going to utilize up here. So for this one, I'm thinking if I sneak it back here, and I may need to use one of these just to kind of keep it level since I'm trying to put it on this envelope as well. So if I want to cut it off, see, that looks pretty good. Let's move it up just a little bit and see what it looks like hidden in there. Okay, I'm not loving it, so let's move it down. Let's move it down here. See if we can't just use it as an accent piece. Okay, love that. And did you guys see that little tilt that I did? And it made such a difference. So make sure that they're all perfectly vertical. Okay, next up we have our ring boxes. I'm going to just use a neutral white, and I'm going to use it wherever I see negative space. So instead of adding tons around the outside of the flat lay, I'm going to utilize the empty space that I see within my little cutouts. So right here, I'm obviously not gonna be able to add any up here. I could add a ring box up here. There's no room right here, but there is some negative space right here. So I'm going to try out and use a ring box right here. Yes. See, and that just kind of fills that empty space. And then I am going to add in that smaller ring dish. We're gonna add it in up top. Before, there was a little bit of empty space up here. So let's see if we can't kind of cut this circle off just a little bit by not making it the complete main focus, but maybe just like an added little texture right here. We'll hide some of it up with part of the ribbon. That way it gives it just a little soft, little added. I don't love it right here. Let's see what it looks like on top of this paper. We'll cut it off with the main invite. Okay, that looks a ton better. So we're going to cut part of this white paper off since it's a slightly whiter color than this ivory paper. The next little detail I always add into my flat lay are these wax seals. So anything open, I'm going to put one up here. It adds in just a little regal oomph, if you will. Okay, and then right after that, now for flowy flat lays, I'm always going to add in ribbon and tie it around the main card and then really do some like dramatic texture flowy ribbon. But for right now, since we're doing a very like modern symmetrical flat lay, I'm not gonna worry about any more like texture fun little pops. I think this is a really solid flat lay. Let's go ahead and add some jewelry and then we'll go from there. This is going to add some fun little dimension as well. Okay, the part of the jewelry that has like the little places where you lock it, I always try and just kind of shove those underneath the edge so your eye isn't completely drawn to it. And then for jewelry, I love to hold it on one side. I'm gonna scoot this over just a little bit. Hold it on one side of the dish and I'm just gonna kind of straighten it and then gently let it go. And it's going to just make it look like it was effortlessly thrown in. And I'm just gonna curve it around this ring box a little bit. A lot of my brides have been doing hoops lately, so we're gonna go ahead and just do hoops. If they're like the ones that have the backings in them, you can punch them through the top of a ring box and then keep that ring box all the way, so then you can just always add in your, like the two little holes for the earrings. But for my hoops, I just throw them in this little dish. And I would say, unless you're going to add in some very small neutral flowers like white, I would say that this is a solid flat lay. If I were to add in tons of extra stuff, like extra styling boxes, which you could add in one more, since this was a really big envelope, you could add in one more diagonally from that. But if you were going to add in tons of, let's say, just because I have these on hand, butterflies everywhere, if I added in, which I don't, honestly, you guys are gonna hate me, I don't think ribbon just unfurled on a flat lay, I don't think it looks visually pleasing. And also, it doesn't really go with the theme of a flat lay. I try and think about a flat lay, whereas if it doesn't belong, like a bride is not going to just have a ton of ribbon. It shouldn't be in a flat lay. She's going to have jewelry, she's gonna have jewelry boxes, she's going to have her invitation suite, and she's going to have flowers. All of those belong, but I see a lot of photographers who will get a long thing of ribbon and they'll just kind of go from one end and they'll go back and forth and back and forth all the way to the edge. And that just, to me, that looks cluttered and it looks like it shouldn't be there in the first place. So if you're going to use ribbon, I would suggest tying the ribbon around your centerpiece, and we're gonna go over this in the next lesson. But if you do have a wedding coming up, this is how I always do ribbon, so it's not just another thing on a flat lay, because you do want to try and keep it minimal. That way you can come here and then I'll teach you the ribbon technique in that same lesson, but you're gonna go back and forth and back and forth to make it look effortless down. Again, this does not fit for this flat lay, but that's how I would use a ribbon for a flat lay. So let's go ahead and line these up completely up on top of the flat lay. And as you can see, I really do love this little statement piece from going like the different direction. I am going to tuck it into the card a little bit more so that you can't see as much of it. But again, this is a very minimal flat lay that I really feel like we're only using what's necessary to capture the beauty of this flat lay. I always love to, and I don't have to anymore, but when I first started, I would do my flat lay and I would try and take out one thing from my flat lay, and it's gotten to the point where now I know there's not a ton of items and random styling stuff that needs to be in a flat lay to make it visually perfect. All right, let's go ahead and take some pictures and then we'll post them.